the man who went to work every day. I lived across the hall from Daniel Harper for almost 7 years. If you'd asked me what kind of person he was, I probably wouldn't have had much to say. He wasn't rude. He wasn't especially friendly either. We exchanged the occasional nod in the hallway, held doors open for each other, and once or twice shared an elevator ride in complete silence. When I try to remember something distinctive about him, his voice, his laugh, the way he walked, I come up empty. He was simply there. A presence, a shape that passed by my door twice a day. Beyond that, I knew almost nothing about him. Still, when you live across from someone for that long, you start noticing things. The thing everyone noticed about Daniel was his routine. Every weekday at exactly 8:12 in the morning, his apartment door would open. Not 8:11, not 8:13. You could set your watch by it. He'd step into the hallway carrying the same black briefcase, lock his door with 2 distinct clicks, wait for the elevator, and leave. He never rushed. He never ran late. He never seemed hurried or tired or excited or sad. He just left. Then every evening at exactly 6:03, he'd come home. The same footsteps in the hallway, the same 2 clicks of the lock, the same silence. After a while, Daniel became less of a neighbor and more of a clock. There were mornings when I hadn't looked at my phone yet, but the moment I heard his door open, I knew exactly what time it was. 8:12. Always 8:12. What made it stranger is that outside of that routine, Daniel barely seemed to exist. I never saw visitors at his apartment, never heard music through the walls, never heard him laugh, never heard him argue, never heard him on the phone. On weekends, he'd leave once, always Saturday morning, always around 10, and return with a single bag of groceries. That was it. The rest of the weekend, his door stayed closed. No sounds, no movement, nothing. Sometimes I'd pass his door late at night and press my ear against it without thinking, just to check, just to confirm there was still someone alive in there. I never told anyone I did that. At the time, none of this seemed unusual. Some people are private. Daniel was private. That was the end of it. The only real conversation I can remember having with him happened about a year before he died. I ran into him at a grocery store a few blocks from our building. Seeing him there felt wrong somehow, like spotting a wild animal inside a church. He wasn't supposed to exist outside the hallway. We ended up standing in the same checkout line, and after a few minutes of awkward silence, I asked him how work was going. It wasn't a meaningful question, just something people say to fill empty air. For a long moment, Daniel didn't answer. He simply looked at me. Not confused, not annoyed. Something else. Recognition. Like I had accidentally asked him a question he'd been waiting years for someone to ask. Then the expression vanished. He smiled, a small, tired, practiced smile that didn't reach his eyes, and said, "Same as always." I paid for my groceries and walked home. By the time I reached my apartment, I'd already forgotten the conversation.
Later, I realized something. In 7 years, that was the only time I'd ever heard him mention his job. The only time. I didn't ask any follow-up questions. I didn't ask where he worked. I didn't ask anything. A few months later, the smell started. It was faint at first. Just a hint of something wrong in the air. People complained to the building manager. Someone blamed the trash room. Someone blamed the plumbing. No one knocked on Daniel's door. I paused near it on the 3rd day. The smell was stronger there. I almost knocked. but I thought, it's probably nothing. He's fine. We're not even friends. Someone else will check. I kept walking. I think about that moment a lot now.
On the fourth day, the building manager called the police. I remember standing in my doorway when they arrived. They knocked. No answer. They called his phone. We all heard it ringing inside. Ringing and ringing. They forced the door open. About an hour later, they carried Daniel out on a stretcher. The body bag was black. I remember thinking that was strange. I'd always imagined they were white. The medical examiner estimated he had been dead for at least 3 weeks. 3 weeks. The entire building erupted into arguments. Nobody believed it. A woman from the second floor insisted she had seen him checking his mailbox less than a week earlier. Another tenant swore he'd passed Daniel in the lobby only days before. A man on the fourth floor said he'd heard Daniel's door open and close, the same 2 clicks, just that morning. Everyone had a story. Everyone was certain. I didn't say anything, but I was just as certain as them. I could have sworn I'd heard his door open recently. The police had an explanation, of course. People remember routines. People see what they expect to see. Once someone becomes part of your daily life, your brain fills in the blanks. We hadn't seen Daniel. We'd seen the shape of Daniel, the idea of Daniel, the space where Daniel was supposed to be. It sounded reasonable. At first. Then new details started coming out. A few weeks after Daniel's death, rumors began spreading through the building. Most were nonsense. Affairs, debts, secret lives. One rumor wasn't nonsense. Daniel Harper hadn't had a job in over 5 years. The truth came out through employment records, or rather, the complete absence of them. 5 years earlier, Daniel had been laid off. Downsizing. Nothing personal. After that, there was nothing. No income, no employer, no workplace. The man everyone watched leave for work every morning hadn't been employed for half a decade. That was the first detail that genuinely scared me. Because if it was true, then where had Daniel been going? Every morning, 8:12, for 5 years. Months later, a local newspaper ran a small article. Page 7, easy to miss. Investigators had traced Daniel's movements using old subway security footage. Every morning he walked to the same station. Every morning he entered through the same gate. And every morning, near a closed-off section of the platform, the cameras lost him behind the same pillar. Same blind spot. Every day. For 5 years. Behind a door marked authorized personnel only, the lock broken for years, police found an abandoned maintenance room. Inside, stacks of newspapers, empty coffee cups, a folding chair, a blanket folded in the corner, and dozens of spiral-bound notebooks. All Daniel's. Every morning he'd left home pretending to go to work. Every morning he'd sat alone in that forgotten room beneath the city. And every evening at 6:03, he'd come home. For 5 years. For a while, I thought that was the end of the story. Then another article appeared, much shorter, tucked into the bottom corner. easy to miss. I wish I had missed it. Investigators had reviewed the notebooks. Most entries were unremarkable. Weather, reminders, fragments of thoughts. Then the final page of the final notebook. One sentence. I think someone followed me here today. No name, no description, no details, just one sentence. And then the article mentioned something else. An old maintenance camera near the tunnel entrance. Footage from the day Daniel died. Grainy, black and white, flickering. Two figures entered the frame. Daniel, 8:14 in the morning, briefcase in hand. A few seconds later, another man entered behind him. Dark coat, briefcase, same height, same build. He didn't hesitate. He walked directly into the tunnel as if he'd done it 100 times before. Neither man was ever seen leaving. No identification was ever made. The tunnel was sealed. The case went cold. People moved on. I tried to do the same. Then, about 6 months later, I was cleaning out an old storage area in the basement of our building. I found a box of old photographs, cookouts, holiday parties, community meetings, the kind of pictures nobody ever looks at twice. One photograph caught my attention because Daniel was in it. He looked younger, slightly less tired, standing with a group of residents, not quite part of the group, not quite separate, there but not there. At first, it looked completely ordinary, residents smiling, looking at the camera. Then I noticed someone in the background, a man standing near the edge of the frame, half hidden behind a tree. Dark coat, black briefcase, watching the group. I assumed he was another tenant. I showed the photograph to several longtime residents. Nobody recognized him. Not one person. That alone wasn't enough to scare me. People forget faces. People move away. I almost threw the photograph away. Then I checked the date on the back. The picture had been taken 7 years before Daniel died. 2 years before he lost his job. 2 years before the notebooks. 2 years before the tunnel. I looked back at the photograph. My hands were unsteady now. The unknown man was still there. Same dark coat, same black briefcase, same position at the edge of the frame. But he wasn't looking at the camera. Everyone else was smiling, posing, performing for the lens. He was looking directly at Daniel. And Daniel, young, employed, unknowing Daniel, was smiling at the camera with everyone else, completely unaware that someone at the edge of the frame was staring at him. Had perhaps been staring at him for a long time before that photograph was ever taken. I stared at the image for what felt like an hour. I zoomed in on the man's face, or what little I could make out. Grainy, indistinct, just a shape in a dark coat. But the direction of his gaze was unmistakable. It wasn't a glance. It wasn't accidental. It was fixed. He had been watching Daniel for years before the unemployment, before the routine, before the notebook entry, before the two figures entered a tunnel and never came out. I've tried to come up with reasonable explanations. A stranger, a coincidence, shadows and angles and a mind looking for patterns. But I keep returning to that image, the dark coat, the briefcase, the gaze, and the question I can't stop asking. How many times did he stand nearby without being noticed? How many times did Daniel walk right past him? And how many times did the rest of us do the same? Last week I found an envelope under my apartment door. No address, no stamp, nothing written on it at all. Inside was a photograph, a recent photograph, in color, taken outside our building. The angle was from across the street. I was in it, walking toward the entrance, keys in my hand, looking down at my phone, completely unaware. And in the background, near the edge of the frame, someone was watching me. I still live in the same apartment. I still take the same elevator. I still walk past Daniel's old door every day. And now, every morning at 8:12, I find myself standing very still in my hallway, listening, waiting for 2 clicks of a lock that never come, because I know the routine isn't over. It's just found someone new.